Hello everybody, welcome to another video. Today I actually wanted to kind of highlight and talk about the recent resurgence of Reaper actually. He's actually gotten quite a boost in pick rate after some interesting changes and this new kind of metagame that Contenders Korea is actually playing in. I think that they've probably have the biggest leap in terms of differential and pick rate right now. I feel like they're very heavily influenced by Sombra. It seems like they're very interested in it, and I wanted to kind of highlight why Sombra and Reaper make sense and why that actually might be bleeding over into the West a little bit. So let's jump into it. So just looking at the overall compositions here. So overall, throughout the history of Overwatch, we've seen Moira go through some changes, but for the most part, her overall strategy has been the same, and she's really good at dealing with tanks. She's really good at dealing with the front line. She disables a lot of their abilities, and that's what makes the front line really good, is their abilities. You know, Winston's leap, D.Va's defense matrix, her boost ability, her micro missiles. Now she even actually has more abilities than what we're used to her having. So if you have a character that's actually great at disabling them, why not run somebody who's great at killing them, right? So if you run the Sombra, she disables the tanks. Perhaps she can actually get a pick on to Zenyatta. I talked about this on Twitter, where I don't think that running Zenyatta in a Sombra centric meta is going to be ideal. I think most times you're going to see teams run either Lucio or Zenyatta paired up with a Moira or a Mercy. Or you could even see teams run Moira Mercy. Not only that, but you're running into EMP issues where you're giving the enemy team two targets or two main targets to kind of deal with you. So obviously, target number one being your tanks. Target two then would be your Zenyatta. So if you're just overall eliminating the Zenyatta from the composition in, again, a Sombra-centric meta, you kind of solve that solution, and they really can only focus on the tanks here. You really don't want Lucio and Zenyatta to get EMP'd because they legitimately do not do anything. I think Zenyatta, yes, you could argue that Zenyatta does actually do quite a bit of damage, and he does help manage the team's overall damage output, but the lack of health and the lack of healing that you're going to get if there is a big EMP on your support line is really rough, and it's not something I think is worth it. There again, the kind of crux of the video is this Reaper pick. Now, while I think this is again very map dependent, we are seeing teams actually get really creative on how they run maps. I mean, look at Nepal Sanctum. We're seeing teams run Widowmaker, which normally we wouldn't see that too often in the past. We see maybe Pharah peppered in there a little bit. Look at Soul's Doomfist composition on Hollywood A, I believe. They've actually rotated that out. If it doesn't work, they actually do go with a Reaper pick. Look at the use of Junkrat. Look at the use of Widowmaker on lots of maps where normally we would just run Dive. Again, people are being very creative and trying to use the maps to their advantage. So with that said, why not use it on Shrine? Shrine again has a very choky, choke-oriented control point on this map. Again, there's only a few entrances. They're all tight little windows that Reaper can abuse if you can wrestle control the point. I think the crux of this specific composition coming out of MVP space relies on the fact that you have to actually win the first fight. Once you win the first fight, you can actually play around a lot of these chokes, excuse me, very, very well. You shred tanks. You put a lot of pressure on the tank line to kind of play very passive, and if they play overly aggressive, you're diving into what could be a hack or a Hellfire shotgun, which is obviously not what you want to do. There again, if Bumper throws in one too many offensive leaps, if OQO, it's hard to exactly tell what his name is. I think it's actually QOQ. If he actually boosts him out of the air, or if Fuse actually boops him out of the air, it just leaves Yaki wide open to do quite a bit of damage. Which this map didn't actually go the way that MVP Space necessarily wanted it to, but there's another clip from the same game that I think accentuates this kind of Reaper flavor of the month strategy a little bit better. So here again we see MVP Space running something similar where they're running Sombra Reaper, but if we look at Runaway, we actually see them running triple tank Reaper on Village, on Nepal Village. Yes. Now what they're going to do is they're going to control this low ground. They're legitimately only going to fight within this little box right here, and they're going to use this very close range composition to their advantage. Now the problem with this for MVP Space is that because they're running a Reinhardt, I think he's the star in this composition, he's going to cut off one of these choke points. So if he cuts this off, there's only one other way for a Sombra to either get an EMP or, to build an EMP or to even get a hack, and it's around this backside. And you're going to notice that everyone is going to be covering that angle very, very well. And when it comes to, creativity, coming out of Korea, I think this is one of the more creative compositions that we've seen so far. We'll get into another clip a little bit in a few seconds where a Western team actually does something that I've been publicly very adamant on. But I thought this was really creative and really intuitive. Is it the best composition on this map? I'm not too sure. Obviously, you can run the Pharah on this map. It is a little bit dangerous if you can't necessarily control this low ground before Pharah can start to really pick your team apart with concussion blasts and direct hit rockets. It can be a little rough, but if you know for a fact that the enemy team is not keen on running a Pharah, then possibly run this in your own scrims and in your own composition. I think it's actually pretty smart. I think this composition could actually be run on a map like Control Center as well, where you're playing in, again, very tight corridors, very tight situations. Maybe a map like Sanctum could be run as well, but there again, maybe you fall prey to a stray Junkrat mine or a trap or something that kind of dislodges you from the point or any of the corridors. So again, just a creative little composition here, but overall just very, very keen on area denial and just controlling very close quarters combat. So with this Dallas Fuel composition, this was after, I would say before their kind of roar into a potential upset, which I think probably would have been upset of this year so far. But, we notice that they're actually not running any of their main tanks. Coco's not playing for whatever reason. Taimu's not playing. XQC, again, was removed. So they're left to kind of play with whatever pieces that they have. And we see that Mickey actually is playing main tank. And, well, he is in future matches or, the continuation of Control. And Seagull is actually playing flex tank. Now, what's interesting is that, yes, Mickey is kind of denoted the role of main tank, but it's actually Rascal here who's actually playing more of the tank role on Mei. Again, Control Center for Lijiang has been a map that I've been really interested in when, we're talking about Mei in particular, because she legitimately just is a map editor and she forces you to play within what she allows you to, if that makes sense. Again, I have to credit Hexagrams for that one. I believe he kind of calls her a map editor here. But overall, she's controlling these tight choke points around the map and just forces you to be separated from your team as long as, Rascal is on his game and is playing well, which most of the time he is. He can legitimately just split up your team away from each other and pick you off piece by piece. Not only that, but again, affect synergizes well with Rascal's pick here. The Mei and the Reaper, we're kind of going old school. We're going back to a little bit of a Beyblade meta, where, again, once you pick someone off and you separate them with Ice Wall, or maybe even you slow them down with Blizzard or your left click, Reaper does a great job. He doesn't have to chase after you with the shotguns. He runs up to you and point blanks you. But not only that, this map overall, Control Center, is actually very prone to tank compositions. You know, we've seen quad tank, we've seen triple tank in many varieties. Maybe it's a Junkrat, maybe it's a Tracer, maybe it's a Soldier. You have very different forms and variations of tank compositions that's played on this map, but most of the time, you know, you do see tanks. And what's great at dealing with tanks? Reaper. Reaper's great at dealing with tanks. Not only that, but again, it synergizes well with Mei. And as long as, again, I think it is actually the crux of the strategy relies on your Mei player being very, very good. But if you do have a very good Mei player, some, you know, looking at maybe San Francisco, obviously Dallas, maybe even Seoul. We've seen Seoul run it a little bit on Junkertown. Perhaps they could pull it out on Route 66, or maybe even on Hollywood. I think we've seen a little bit of Mei. But overall, it's just a cool little strategy where you're applying synergy, you're applying synergistics with maps and hero picks, and overall it actually works out really well for Dallas Fuel, where they systematically just pick people off with great, you know, perfectly timed Ice Walls from Rascal, and really force them to play their game in every sense. And it's pretty obvious that New York has never really dealt with this. It's kind of a wonky curveball that they're thrown, and they don't know exactly how to deal with it. But again, the kind of idea of the video is Reaper's bleed over. Again, with Reaper's changes to his ult, which makes him a little bit better at dealing with tanks, we could see him actually played quite a bit coming into this stage 3 with the Sombra meta coming in. It's possible that he actually sees quite a boost in play, depending on the maps. Obviously, you know, looking at the Overwatch League, the maps have been a little bit fined down, if that makes sense. The map pool has been a little bit more nuanced, so I guess it will depend in terms of what heroes we see. It is going to depend on the map pool, but overall, if we do see a Reaper map pool, possibly we might see a little bit more Reaper, which is really cool. I think that's pretty awesome. But until next time, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it's not necessarily a ton of analysis, but I just wanted to highlight something. Maybe if hardcore viewers of the Overwatch League weren't necessarily up to date on maybe some of the transitions that we might see coming into stage 3. But I digress. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, all that good jazz, and follow me on Twitter if you want to hear any more of my just random thoughts. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video.